What's up, brothers? Kevin Wilson with the BMXPERTS Podcast. Thank you very much for stopping back by. Danny and I are excited about this episode with Byron Friday. Byron sat down with us talking about SE, Redline, early BMX in the 70s. But we also talked about some touchy subjects such as drug use and alcohol. And we wanted to let everybody know that before they clicked on, just in case you have a younger family member or children in the room, or you're at work or something like that, you may want to wait till you get home. And there's also some language issues in here. There's not a lot, but there are a couple F-bombs here and there. So we want to let everybody know that before you clicked on and give everybody fair warning so you can plan accordingly. Other than that, Danny and I are really excited about this episode. We really go in depth in 70s BMX. So that being said, click at your own risk. Thank you very much. As always, thank you for watching. Peace.
As far as innovative ideas, dude, it was off the wall, on the fly. Okay, like we're on a road trip to Arizona for ABA race, and Scott's got the OM Flyer, and he's got the prototype landing gear fork, and we're blazing down the road. Probably blazing on the doobie or a pipe, little smoking some ganja. Vibes are good, and we're getting creative. We're throwing around all kinds of names. It's a full-on SE fucking product development and marketing vibe session. We're throwing around names, and the names are getting better and better. And Scott says landing gear. This is going to be landing gear for a bicycle. And our eyes open up. Whoa! Like, hell yeah, dude!
Welcome back to the BMXPERTS Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, we're on the gate with Byron Friday. Byron, thank you very much for joining us. Danny and I have been looking forward to this for a long time, man. Thank you.
What's up?
Before we started to record, Byron was telling us a little bit about how he was a sales guy for Scorpion and SE, and I had mentioned that I thought that SE, being an SE salesman, would have sold itself. And Byron was going to share a little story before we got started, man.
Yeah, so at the time, so some people don't know that SE went Chapter 11, and so I had made the transition from BMX mountain bikes, and that was over a year into that, but Scorpion went out of business, and so Perry Kramer is my good friend. The Ripper! Ask Perry about how the name of the Ripper came about, motherfucker.
Hey, we're going to talk about it because I think he's scheduled for the near future. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So anyway, so I got the job at SE to do telemarketing, and it's Perry, Fred Blood, and myself. And SE is on its last leg, pretty much. Scott was out of the company, and he moved on to doing video production once he figured out what to do. Mm-hmm. So it was a shop on Paramount. So 5 days a week, Kramer, Fred Blood, and Friday calling dealers. And so at that time, this was when freestyle is starting to take major market share. Mm-hmm. And most dealers were not buying BMX racing product unless, they knew it was going to sell or they had orders. Okay. And so, back then, even with having PK rippers in stock in all different colors and landing gear forks, landing gear forks, handlebars, and all kind of BMX racing accessories sold, but you could hardly sell five PK rippers a week. And it was freaking sad because it's like SC, man, they were happening, and this is a transition from BMX sales are going down because of freestyle, but also they're just going down. And also one reason is mountain bikes are coming in, right? And so BMX is not as much of an emphasis for the shops at that time. So it was not the most pleasant experience making so many phone calls. It was pretty much like call 100 dealers and make one sale. And then half the time, they wouldn't order right then. They would call you back with the order. So it was like very, very, not very often where you get a order right on the phone. So those were tough days. And SC went chapter 11, and luckily I was into mountain bikes, and I got a job at High Torque Publications at Mountain Bike Action and Motocross Action. And in the other side of the building was BMX Plus, but I didn't have anything to do with that. So to answer your question, that was a long-winded way of saying that SE products at that time, like 84, 85, did not sell itself.
Oh, wow.
It was weird.
We probably bought my crew probably. You there?
It was weird doing. Sometimes Scott's office was still there. Exactly, okay? And sometimes it would get noisy in the sales room, so I'd go in Scott's office and make calls. It was a trip making phone calls at Scott Brighthouse desk. All his paperwork is still there, dude. I never went through it, but it was trippy.
Wow, dude. Hey, look, Byron, let me ask you a question. I started riding a BMX bike in 73, 74 when I was like 6 or 7 years old. How far do you go back? Do you go back to Palms Park, or is that before your time?
No, Palms Park. Let me give you the order. In the first issue of BMX newspaper, okay, there's a article on a guy named police officer Chuck Hoover. He started races at Chatsworth Park in Chatsworth. That's right near where O'Neill Distributing is. And so Chatsworth Park was my first race, probably like 72. Then I raced Indian Dunes. That's when Ernie had his first BMX race at Indian Dunes. Then I raced Soledad Sands. And then Yarnell, the first Yarnell, which was super freaking gnarly. I don't know if you've ever discussed Yarnell 1, but that's like a quarter of an episode talking about Yarnell. So there's Yarnell 1, which is a super G gnarly downhill jump where literally, okay, you're going so fast down this hill with these jumps, you could kill yourself. You could kill yourself. You could break your freaking neck. And it was too gnarly so they made Yarnell 2 and they tamed it down. And that was a really fun track for entry-level riders and intermediates and experts and novices. And so from there, I was doing the NBA points chasing, and Ron Mackler who ran Palms Park, he got together with NBA and they decided to sanction Palms Park with NBA. So with that on the schedule on Wednesday night, me and Billy Wuda were battling it out halfway through 1974 for number 5 or number 4. And so we started going to Palms Park every Wednesday night. And a side note about Palms Park, This is a really crucial piece about, what I'm going to talk to you about is the genesis of the BMX industry. Okay? So I had, there was a motorcycle newspaper, was bi-weekly and then it turned to weekly. And the name was Southern California Motocross News. There was also NBA's paper. There was also Ernie's motocross newspaper that covered motocross, and that was bi-weekly, and that was called Cycle Scene. Well, Cycle Scene and Southern California Motocross newspaper started covering bicycle races. And one of the earliest ones that they covered was Palms Park, okay? So here's what's crucial to understand. So the editor, Scott Heidebrink, and publisher at Cycle Scene was gathering people to do race reports for the BMX races around Southern California. And he gathered people to take photos and write stories from Simi to Palms Park to all the NBA races, and then eventually Saddleback and as many, almost all the BMX races around Southern California. Okay, and here's what I'm segueing into is these early issues of Southern California Motocross that featured Palms Park. This is like '74, and I'm reading about Rick's Bike Shop Team, Domination, John Palfreman, Tom Lund, Doug Takahashi, Eric Richter, Philip Palfreman, Victor Palfreman, Peter Palfreman, the Palfreman brothers. Okay, Let me plant a seed with you. Okay. Dogtown skateboarding. There's an entire other side of Dogtown with all these BMXers that are in Dogtown. Also read about Perry Kramer at racing at Palms Park. So those guys were all hanging out and skating and riding pools on their bikes with all the Z-Boys and the Dogtown guys. Wow. Tony Alva, Adams. Okay. There's an entire story that Stacy Peralta didn't cover, okay? But anyway, back to Palms Park. That's a side note, and that's a genesis of pool riding for BMX. But back to Palms Park. So I was reading about the Rick's Bike Shop guys, Perry Kramer, and these other riders that were attending Palms Park. And then they would show up at Ernie's NBA races, and I was like, oh, dude, that's Perry Kramer. Dude, that's John Palmer. Oh, Rick's Bike Shop. Rick's Bike Shop. I was like, oh, my God. It was kind of like almost like they were like a Bob Hanna or a Brock Glover, or a hot motocross rider. So it's like, here's what's so cool is you read before you ever saw the guys at a race, you read about them. And so it's like, oh, they're gods because they're in the newspaper. Oh, if I could ever be in the fucking newspaper, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, with Dirk Claude O'Hare, he was on Dirt Master, and he was a Z-Boy too. So those guys started showing up at the NBA races, and they were fast as fuck. Okay, but I don't want to brag, but I was competitive, so it was a good time, dude. So that right there, I'm gonna end this in one sec. That right there lended exposure of bicycle motocross, which had been called BMX yet, to the entire motorcycle industry in Southern California. Yeah. And so it put BMX on the radar. And then when Scott Breithaupt did the Yamaha Gold Cup, that caused everything to blow up in the industry. Then the industry started making product, started advertising. When the BMX news came out, there was product companies, all kinds of companies offering product. So there was plenty of advertisers to support BMX news for the first couple of years.
Yep.
So,
Danny, do you know about Palms Park?
I know about it from watching Joe Kidd on the Stingray.
Okay, my question for those that are watching now that don't know about Palms Park. Palms Park is the first documented BMX race in the country. Did I get that right, Byron?
Documented. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but my question to you is, I've seen a couple pictures of Palms Park, and it looked like there wasn't even a track. Like they just rode around trees and shit. Was it a real track, or was it like a goat trail that you just went in and out of trees around through grass? Is that right, or is that wrong?
Yeah, exactly. It was at a park. So last year, I was riding my road bike. I do a road bike from the valley to Santa Monica in the summer. So I stopped by Palms Park. So the starting line was on the walkway at the park, and then it made a right turn. But everything surrounded the building. The entire grass surrounded the building. So they started off by the parking lot. You went about 25 yards, and then you turned right into the grass, and it started going around the trees. Yeah. And then it dropped downhill into this little, like a valley, and then uphill to the finish line.
Got it. And for those that are watching, this was in Santa Monica, California, in a regular park.
This is actually, it's West LA. It's a 101 freeway and the Santa Monica freeway.
Okay.
So it's just east of Santa Monica. It's just up the road.
Got it. Okay.
But the thing is, okay, probably half the riders are like from Santa Monica, Venice, that race there. So what this was, essentially like a cyclocross race with no obstacles. Cyclocross, off-road, on-road race with bicycles for kids.
You know, I went to, I know that Rob Mackler is buried in Oceanside, and I tried to find his, I wanted to take a little flick trick bicycle, and I took it down I tried to find his grave, and I spent about 4 hours down at where he's buried, and I couldn't find him. But I wanted to pay tribute to Ron, and you put a little flick trick on his headstone, but I couldn't find him. You know, I heard an interview with Perry one time where he said that Rob's in the Hall of Fame deservedly, but he said there was another guy that helped him that should be in the Hall of Fame. I can't remember the gentleman's name. Do you know who he was talking about?
You might be talking about Richie Lee.
Okay.
It might be Richie Lee. Richie was also, I would say, a part of that. I'm pretty sure. My memory does. I'm pretty sure he was, and he's probably talking about Richie Lee.
Okay.
Because also Richie Lee was a contributor to do race reports for Southern California motocross, probably cycle scene, and he will for sure. You'll see his articles. I'm 99% sure in BMX newspaper. And he had a daughter, Brenda Lee, and she was on Dirt Master. And so Richie, I believe, I'm 99% sure that he was a big part of Palms Park. Okay. And then also a pioneer journalist in BMX. And photographer, story writer, contributor to publications.
Got it. Danny, you want to? I'm gonna bogart the questions if you don't say something, Danny. You got something?
I'm really just interested in listening to Byron's stories because Yeah, because the history, his history is insanely deep. Like if you think about where my entry in BMX was, it was already 82. By that time, Byron had already seen the introduction of the sport. He said a few key things that I wrote down because he said I was involved before it was even called BMX, and that really perked my ears up. I'm like, wow, they just called it bicycle motocross. Do you remember the first time somebody came up with the term BMX, Byron? Or do you know who even came up with that term at all?
I know. Good.
Not exactly. I think that wasn't like a duly noted situation. I think when it happened, you started to see it probably. It was probably ubiquitous. Like it just started to happen, and we were just so busy, riding and trying to keep. At that time, there's in those early days, there's hardly any BMX parts. So most of the time it was spent trying to keep our bikes running and getting parts because we were blowing through stuff, and then just riding and doing life. So I think it just happened. And to answer your question specifically, I don't know of anything or anyone that said, "Oh, this is a BMX," and people said, "Oh yeah, that's a great name." I think it just happened organically.
Yeah, I never thought about that, Kev. You said you had some insight on that?
Well, I'm a little embarrassed right now. I can't remember the young lady's name, but she was the editor by the Bicycle Motocross News newspaper, and John Salami actually interviewed her. And for the life of me, her name is escaping me right now, but she's the one that I knew. You know her name, Byron? Elaine Holt. Elaine Holt. My understanding was that Elaine Holt came up with the name bicycle motocross. That's
I'm embarrassed to say, Kevin, I never knew where that term came from, man. It just, when I got into the sport, the term BMX was well known. Yeah. So that's crazy.
Does that sound right, Byron? Elaine Holt?
Yeah. I would say that, that she being a publisher, when you're a publisher, the semantics of what you're doing, you get clever, creative ingenuity, and that was just a perfect identifier. And then she does bicycle motocross news. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's first documented. There's probably, BMX dads and motorcycle shops that probably use the term. But for official branding of the name, the identifier bicycle motocross, I would say that, bicycle motocross news is the first, real dedicated publication. So she's got it. Credit.
Hey, Byron, did you ever race Malibu or the Driver Brothers track at their house?
I did not, but I read about it. So at that time, BMX racing wasn't a thing. It was they were probably, I don't know what year it was, but they were probably a little bit before the Chuck Hoover LAPD sergeant started with Chatsworth. But I do know that those races were covered in probably Southern California Motocross newspaper,
okay,
and probably somewhere, probably a couple of other places, but I don't remember where. But I just do remember, there was a nude trophy girl, and never seen some photos, so that's in my memory banks.
There you go, man. All right, man. I'm sorry, Danny. What was your other question, Danny?
I was interested in he talked about SE Racing and doing the telemarketing for SE Racing, and what I was trying to get to is when was the downfall of SE Racing, and I think you mentioned 84, 85, or was it after that where it's
I don't know exactly what year, but if you do a Google search, you're probably if you did a Google search or Chat GPT AI, when did SE Racing on Paramount Shop go bankrupt? It's like around 84, 85.
Yeah, it was interesting because he said he would call 100 bike shops and maybe sell five bikes. And had you ever thought that SE Racing would be so, now it's on top of the world again? Did you ever think that would go full circle like that, Byron? Because I mean, there's a PK Ripper right behind me. So, and they're all over the place. You go outside and you'll see SE products now. It's probably bigger than it ever was. Did you think it would ever do that, something like that?
I actually never really thought about that. Because I had just been through with Scorpion what SE was beginning to go through. Okay? And Scorpion, the end of days, they probably kept Scorpion going. They probably kept Scorpion going longer than they should. But the thing is, the owner kept it going, but he was in Asia. He was in Japan and Taiwan. It was Mr. Paul Hinkston. And so I was kind of running it was Scorpion's a whole different story. Actually, we should talk about that because I got some really good insights there. But to get back to your question, I had just experienced what SE was going through, so I could see the handwriting on the wall. So I didn't really think about it. And only thing that I was on my mind was I was turning into a mountain bike athlete and pursuing the opportunities in adult bikes, which that was fucking beginning to blow up. So I never thought about that. But here's what I'm going to say, is the bicycle industry and action sports, this is one of those remarkable stories where the brand was reborn by virtue of creative ingenuity, people holding on to an iconic brand, and then serendipity occurs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Serendipity in the form of Big Black and Rob Dyrdek, and then, making a Big Ripper, and making that bike available. There was kind of like, here's what I'll say. BMX during 70, 74, 75, 76, because the motorcycle industry, the genesis of BMX occurred at the perfect time, okay? Because all these things. BMX happened because the kids, okay? Because publishing got exposure. Publishers stood behind. They thought it was going to be something, and it was something. The motorcycle industry started investing. People that had machine shops, they started building product. And next thing you know, it's serendipity, the perfect storm, okay? That's exactly what happened with SE Racing. Exactly. Yeah. All of that, right? Okay, but what I'll add on to that, okay, is unique branding and the bike, okay? When you go into a shop and you see a Big Ripper, it's like, fuck, dude, the thing is it's such a cool bike. Like I was, Perry was, let's see, he was at Giant. I was at one of the big shops that had like 100 shops, and they carried the Big Ripper. I called Perry, and I'm looking at like probably 5 Big Rippers, all different colorways. And the fucking bike is irresistible, dude. You're an adult, you see the bike, it's like, oh my God, this is fucking dope shit, dude. Okay? So all those ingredients plus what I just said, okay? And okay, the timing was right, dude. The timing was right. Everything goes in cycles. And BMX came back but kind of in a different incarnation. Woo!
Hey, Byron, you may have been asked this question many times already, but I got to ask, what do you think? You think Scott would have been down for this whole research of big bike thing, or did you think he would have? He had to. He was a business guy, so he loved. I would assume he would have loved it, but I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, all I can concur with that is, traveling on the 76 NBA tour. So there was an NBA band, and then Scott joined us, and he had he was starting FMF. So Perry and I and Ted Gomet, we'd travel mostly with Scott in his white big band, right? So I'll, like a month and a half, maybe 2 months, traveling across the country, spending so much time with Scott. But to really solidify what I mean is, as far as innovative ideas, dude, it was off the wall, on the fly. Okay, like we're on a road trip to Arizona for ABA race, and Scott's got the OM Flyer, and he's got the prototype landing gear fork, and we're blazing down the road, probably blazing on the doobie or a pipe, little smoking some ganja. Vibes are good, and we're getting creative. We're throwing around all kinds of names. It's a full-on SE fucking product development and marketing vibe session. We're throwing around names, and the names are getting better and better. And Scott says landing gear. This is going to be landing gear for a bicycle. And our eyes open up. Whoa! Like, hell yeah, dude! Woo! Dude, it was like, that's how it happened, dude.
Yeah.
And creative ingenuity and brainstorming. So yeah, he would totally be with it.
Byron, dude, there's two eras of my BMX life. The one is SC and JMC. Prior to '84, I was SC all the way. My whole crew was SC. We all loved everything SC. We loved it. So this right now is very cool because we speculated, right, from the outside, from the kid right around the neighborhood. This is exactly what we imagined that SC was doing behind the scenes, man. Exactly. I don't know if you feel the same way, Danny.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of SE racing kind of documentaries, on YouTube, and I'm super always interested in how the beginning stages of that all happened. I really think Scott was a genius and ahead of his time, and the way the frames looked, the way the sticker placement was. I mean, the fact that it says landing gear down the fork leg light looks bitchin', and the way it just says PK Ripper down the down tube. And
that could be the best name ever placed on a BMX part, landing gear forks. It could be the best name.
I believe so, man. 'Cause the first time I saw that, man, I was like, it says landing gear. That's awesome. I didn't know what SE quite was yet. I was really in the early stages of, falling in love with the sport. And I the first PK Ripper I saw, Byron, it was I told Kevin this story, but I was at a flag football game in junior high, and I went to go watch the game, and this kid pulled up from another school, and he had a baby blue PK Ripper with black Z rims, and I could still remember red line fly, the whole 9 yards. And he pulled up, and I thought to myself, that is the coolest bike ever. I just saw it, and I was a Lamborghini for the first time. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, that's just perfection. Yeah. So that's why I look at what Scott did and you guys did, and I just go, man, I don't know how they did it. Because Mongoose is cool, Twin's cool, all that's cool, but SE is like a whole different thing.
Contrast to SC, I would assume that Redline was a whole different animal, right? Probably a little bit more regimented, a little bit wrong, or is that accurate?
Yeah, well, Redline was essentially, a motorcycle frame engineering company that figured out, that saw BMX happening, and because there were so many leaders in BMX innovation and product development and marketing in Southern California. It was simply just Mike Conway, Lynn Caston, and Mike Conway with a motorcycle shop that got recommended that they hire a kid to work with them, okay, to help guide them. Because hire someone that understands, okay, what problems that needed to be solved, because there were so many problems that needed to be solved. So Jim Emerson, which was the impetus to work with Lynn Caston for Lynn to build the first tubular fork. Okay, so that situation with Lynn is simply. Are you guys there? Is the screen locked up?
We can hear you.
Okay, got you. So it's essentially a motorcycle fabrication shop that knew this BMX thing had potential, and that they got consulted with Jim Emerson and other people that if you want to learn, you need to hire a racer, a kid that can communicate, okay, what improvements need to be made, okay, on the product, on the actual the materials to use, and what were the problems that that rider was experiencing. What areas did they want improved, okay? And so it became a brainstorming session it's just a vibe session to figure out, okay, the handlebars is a problematic area, okay? The stem is a problematic area. So let's start with that, right? So as far as Kevin, get to your answer, that's what that was, okay? It's just organic, a small company making motorcycle stuff. They're going to make BMX stuff because they want to increase their sales and they want to diversify. And it's just how it was back then. It was nothing regimented. It was just, we show work, okay? We talk about, in my case, I would complain. I was always complaining. And Lynn would take the feedback. And the first feedback was doing the ProLine stem. And we worked on that. And then shortly after, we did the V bars, right? And those are successful. Those are solving my problem. So, Lynn's got he's got the light bulb. It's kind of like, okay, this is working. We got Byron working in the shop. We got Byron working on the shop and the head janitor. And he's given us, he's our consultant on what problems riders are facing and what we can do about it. And so he'd make the prototypes of the handlebar and stem. I would test it out. And I was giving positive feedback. And so it was working. Then he went on to do the first ProLine fork. That was quite a bit of work because it was so lightweight that they had to be heat treated. So that was kind of a nightmare. But when we worked through that and got some working samples that were straight, that didn't get warped from heat treating, on the front end of my square back, then Lynn gave the approval, make it and sell it, okay? So he's going into production on that. He gets the shop set up for production. Then he starts working on the blueprint for the Pro line, right? And so he does the blueprint. I take a look at it. Then he makes the first prototype. And basically, Peddlers West builds up my new prototype. And it's just that vibe where it's nothing is a system, okay? It's just we're going to make some shit. And each day, we're going to figure out each day what to do, right? And as long as Lynn is getting the feedback and the advice that I give him is making better stuff, okay? And then when the shops see it, and then the riders that buy that product from the shops, when they give the fucking 5 thumbs up like Terry Tennant, and Lynn gets the feedback, then fucking Byron Friday, he's the man, you know? He knows he can guide our company.
That's pitchy, man. The when I look back on BMX in the 70s, and I'm thinking, well, not the whole history, but there are certain things that I think of were the most important product innovation in the sport of BMX through history. And I got to think that the double clamp stem is probably up there in the top 3 of product innovations through BMX. Do you have any opinion on the most innovative part made in BMX? Would you put that up there, or would you pick something else?
I just think I don't know about the most innovative, but I would just say that when you have a company and the people behind it are innovative and they know how to create and craft a product that has benefits over the previous design, so they're iterating, right? They're iterating from one step to another. I just think that Redline is one of those top companies at that time for being innovative, and then also starting a team and marketing. So that's definitely why they have the heritage that they have now. I don't think it needs to. I don't think it needs to have. I mean, if you want to say it's one of the most innovative, yeah. But I think just Redline as a whole has their heritage and their legacy, and that stands on that.
Yeah, I love the Redline double clamp with the Redline in the clamps. That's so trick. I love that stem. Yeah. I got to ask you, man, and I've been a little bit critical about the frame design for the MX2 and the Pro line. I always thought that the C-tube was slanted too far back. Do you have any opinion on that? I mean, am I way off base? Was it common for the time? It just seemed like it was too far back. Do you have any comment on that?
Probably in the last 10 years or so, I probably observed that. Okay. And now that I think about it, I probably didn't have on the geometry. I think Lynn probably asked me, okay, we got the square back here. What would you, what input do you have? I think mainly it was just maybe a little bit longer but lighter, But I would say, yeah, that seat back, laid back seat angle, probably a little bit much.
Okay.
But I think that when I rode it, I think the position of that seat was good for the riding style that we had back then. So it wasn't in the way, but also when you need to lean on it for, in turns and stuff, or sit down. I don't think it may look like it wasn't optimal, but I don't think that it was an issue. So,
personally, I think
I see what you mean, though.
I think that the square back is probably the most attractive old school frame ever made, in my opinion. It's a very attractive frame. It seems, did the seat angle change from the square back to the MX2, or was it pretty much the same? Because it didn't seem like it was as far back.
Yeah, I was probably on my way out of a red line, or the MX2 happened after I got fired. So I can't answer that. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Was there an MX1? I don't even know. Was there an MX1?
Yeah, I wasn't involved with that, so I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what
do you think again?
Let me give you some. Let me give you some story about the product development. Okay, and areas where I had problems with the square back and also with the pro line. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So maiden voyage, I'm on Shimano. Okay. And maiden voyage on the square back was the NBA Randall Ranch National. And we'd gotten the the square back frame and fork. Jim Emerson got it and built our bikes for the Randall Ranch National on we probably got them like Thursday or Friday. Hardly any time to ride it, but the geometry was similar, so it wasn't too far off. I didn't really have to adapt too much. Okay. But back then we're riding coaster brakes, right? And so what's the typical, if you look at a coaster brake, when Shimano made the hub, if you had one right now, you would see that they didn't make the axles too wide. Shimano got feedback from BMX, typical BMX frame, a very thin plate for a dropout, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Okay. All right. So they didn't make the axles protruding protruding past the end of the axle nut, right? On a typical BMX frame, right?
Yeah.
So I had my trail mate, and I got a Shimano rear hub. Shimano rear hub. It's a Shimano coaster brake. And so when I put on the real wheel and I tighten it up, the axle nut, the axle barely protrudes past the axle nut. Okay? So let me ask you. So what happens, okay, when you put the rear wheel in a fucking square back? How many threads you think are going to be? How many threads on the axle are you going to have?
Not many. Not many.
Right, exactly. Okay, but here's the thing: they built the frame up, and I didn't notice. Okay, that the axle, the threads on the axle nut were only covering like half of the axle probably only went into the nut about halfway. There's fucking not enough threads. But I didn't build the bike, and I didn't know that. The guy that built the bike should have said, "Oh fuck, we need to get a Bendix hub, okay, and use the axle from that, okay, so the axle's fucking wide enough for the square back, right?"
Yeah.
Okay. So everything's fine. It doesn't rear its ugly head until we got to the semi. got to the semi, okay, and I fucking hole shot. And there's actually a picture. There's a sequence picture by Jack Scagnetti coming out of the second turn of me leading, Archie Watson, Perry Kramer, and then Cornell, I think. It's a 4 sequence. But where Archie passes me and fucking crashes his brains out. It's an awesome sequence. But one turn later, my axle nut strips off the axle. The axle nut strips off. So I lose my chain. I run the rest of the race and I still qualify. So we get back to the pits and the Shimano guys are there. And Jim Emerson, I'm looking, look at this, dude. There's no fucking axle nut on the bike. You fucking idiots. Fuck. So anyway, they put a new axle nut on it. And so we go up to race the main. And so I get the outside. And I'm right next to Ernie. And I fucking he does his cadence. I fucking just take off, and he just pulls the gate. I got a fucking massive hole shot, the Shimano Grand National, pedaling my ass off at the bottom of the fucking hill. My chain derails. I didn't do shit, dude. I'm leading the fucking Shimano Grand Nationals, and my chain comes off. I come back to the pit. I'm fucking crying my eyes out, dude. And the chain's off, and the Shimano, dude. The Shimano executives, you know what the saying, the Orient, they lost face? You ever heard that?
Yeah.
It's like you're embarrassed at the fucking highest level. I'm just like, I put my hands out, fucking, what the fuck, dude? Oh, shit. Okay, so I fucking, that's the beginning of my fucking, my bad streak of being in the right place at the right time, but having mechanicals. So Lynn, let me see, hold on 1 second. So that was that, right? Okay, so that's just one problem. But later on, when I got my pro line, okay, the fuck was the bomb, dude, the bike was the fucking bomb. And it had Lynn was like, you know what? You're not gonna ride. We're gonna put tandem brakes on your bike, so you're not gonna ride that fucking stupid coaster brake. Lynn was like, Lynn and Jim were like, you need to have a handbrake. You're gonna be a better racer with a handbrake instead of that coaster brake. I'm like, hell yeah, all right. So, through the RC Cola Race of Champions, are you guys familiar with that race?
Yep.
There's that Ascot. It's a fucking big race. They rented out Ascot and made a track. It was fucking awesome. There was qualifiers for it. It was like the Yamaha Gold Cup 2 kind of thing. But so anyway, my setup on my bike is fucking, I don't know what it was, but just like perfect leverage point. And also, I was in shape from riding to redline every day. So I was hole shotting like fucking crazy. So I make it to the main, right? And this is on, Stu's dad captured this footage. In the main, dude, I fucking pop. I got a fucking, within 10 feet, dude, I got a full bike lane. Dennis Dane has a video of it. We'll see if we can get it so you can post. You can see, this video is amazing. But, so, I hole shot, Stu's behind me. I'm going into the first turn, and my cantilever brake post snaps off. And I go over the fucking berm. And Stu went into the berm so hot, he overshot it too. And then John George snuck on the inside because he had a free wheel and a handbrake.
He's a John rider, right? John George?
Yeah, John George. So anyway, I get up, I didn't crash, and then Stu gets going. I'm chasing after him. I thought that he fucking ran me off the track. So I chase him down into the next turn and just fucking T-bone him, dude. He flies over the berm. I fly over the berm, and this shit's on video, dude. It's on the film.
I got one. I want to make sure that I understand this, Byron. So you're saying the reason why you had no threads on your rear axle was because the axle, the wheel on the square back goes directly into the chainstay. There was no proverbial dropout. Am I correct? Do I have that right? That's why you're talking about that?
No, okay. When you put if you put a Shimano hub in the back of a pro line, a square back, there's only like 3 threads protruding on the outside of the dropout.
Because there was no dropout. It was it went into the frame, right?
Well, the drop, it's still the dropout. It's still the frame dropout.
Right, but there was no, right, it was thicker.
Yeah, thicker, yeah.
Okay.
Just a different design. So it's using up all the threads.
Right, okay.
Right. So I'm surprised it didn't malfunction in the motos.
Right.
Probably, okay, it would have, here's the reason why it didn't malfunction in the motos. Is because the start was a downhill, and so it didn't have maximum torque on the axle. If it was a flat start, I would have fucking stripped out the axle and the axle nut in practice.
Makes sense, yeah.
You know what he said something, Danny? He said something that was interesting because he went with the cantilever brakes on the back. There had to have been brake bridges back then, right? With the brake, this wasn't before a brake bridge. This is after.
Here's a bizarre thing. There's no brake bridge on the prototype. No brake bridge.
Okay, but they were a thing on BMX bikes at the time.
Well, even regardless, without the brake bridge, because it was a cantilever brake, it was so much better than a fucking giant caliper.
Right.
So much better.
Right.
Yeah, so much better. And actually, I would say it might have optimized the modulation on the brake with no brake bridge. So,
if I'm wrong, is the cantilever brake, isn't that like road bike technology that transferred over?
It's first used on a tandem.
Okay.
And then on the cyclocross bike, and then mountain bike. It's a center pole, you know. So that segues into Lynn, the mad scientist, coming up with the solution. Okay, the engineering mind. Okay, so have you ever heard of a V brake? Of like Sun Tour roller cam?
I know what a V brake is, though.
So then I come back to the shop. I ride into the shop with fucking no brakes on the bike, and one of the cantilever brakes posts broken off, and fucking mad as fuck. And Jim, I think Jim talked to him about what happened before. So Lynn was like embarrassed that there was such a fucking catastrophic failure at a fucking big race. Like this is like one of the biggest races of the time that I should have won, right? So he's like, okay, I'll come up with a solution. So he built ProLine prototype number 2, and but for about a week, dude, he's working on these fucking aluminum pieces, right? And he's not telling me what it's for, okay? But so you make a piece and it's like, okay, I want you to polish this or sand this or deburr this, and I didn't know what the fuck it was. But he was making a V brake, okay, but it had a mechanical leverage system. Is called a bell crank. If you look in Google search under a bell crank, you'll see these different leverage mechanisms, okay? And so he made the brake. It was based on a bell crank leverage mechanism. So it was a V. It looked like a V brake, a traditional modern V brake that comes on a mountain bike or like a city bike. It's got long. It's like a cantilever brake, but longer, right? And it's got this mounted on top of the chainstay, okay? Not the seat stay, right? And the mechanism is mounted on a brake bridge next to the bottom, where the bottom bracket meets the seat tube. And he drills a hole, and the cable goes through the bottom of the seat tube at the bottom bracket, right? And this mechanism, okay, when you pull the brake lever, it pulls the mechanism, okay, and the mechanism closes the brakes, right? So you pull the brake lever, it turns the mechanism, and the mechanism pulls the brakes in, all right?
Yeah.
And unique design. Fucking super powerful. In fact,
I can't see it. Show the picture, Danny. Put it straight. I can't see it. Okay.
That's really weird looking. Check it out. Is that it?
Is that it, Byron?
I can't see it. No. You gotta. It's a mountain bike V brake is like levers, 2 levers like this, right?
Okay.
And it's got the brake pads right here. And the apparatus, when you pull the brake lever, the brake turns in. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
You know, I'll send you. You know what? Look on the internet. Charlie Cunningham V brake. You'll probably see one. But so anyway, so he makes the frame, and then so this is a brake. I'm looking at the frame, and it's mounted on the seat, on top of the seat stays, and the cable goes through the bottom bracket, right? So we build the bike up, I test it, and the brake's too powerful. There's no modulation. There's no.
That's a new
Yeah. It's something like that. It's something like that. The arms are the same. The arms are right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a 1979 Charlie Cunningham CCR Proto.
Yeah. It's not exactly like that, but it's something like that. But the length of the arm and the positioning are right, is very similar.
Okay.
Okay. So now we got another fucking dilemma. He builds the bike, the brakes, they don't modulate. So Jim Emerson gets a prototype set of Tough Wheels with a coaster brake. And he's like, well, fuck it. You want to ride these wheels? I'm like, hell yeah, dude. So I get we take the bike and put the Tough Wheels on there, and I'm back to fucking coaster brake.
After all that.
Yeah. But as far as this is beginning at this time, okay. When in the early days of BMX, okay, I was so focused. I could train at school. I had guys to ride with. In fact, a lot of Johnny O'Mara, Supercross champion, I grew up with. He would end up being a Supercross champion, a motocross champion, Team Honda. Johnny Osho. Okay, so probably like 8th, 9th grade, drugs and alcohol came into the picture into school. Okay, and then my dad sometimes was starting to be a dick, and so I don't know what. I guess he was just having problems, but it was like a lot of times it was fucking uncomfortable coming home because I didn't know what I was going to have to deal with. So it's kind of like, this was probably only maybe 5% of the time. He was like 5% of the time he turned into a fucking dick. Or maybe he was a bully. And he fucking forgot he was a parent, you know? And so the thing is with the drugs and alcohol, that became a coping mechanism. I'd smoke a little weed or some hash or maybe have a couple beers, come home. You just don't give a fuck, you know? But one thing that is for sure is that when you're young, you start getting into drugs and then it starts getting heavier. You know, we just started off with a little bit of weed or hash and maybe a couple beers, but then it graduates to stimulants. That's when shit goes fucking sideways. And so that's when you start to have bad compromised decision making. And so I went from outstanding, trustworthy, reliable employee at Redline to, fuck, this kid's kind of falling apart. He's not as responsible, not as trustworthy, not as reliable. And Lynn, fucking one day, I was mad at him for a long time, but he never said, "Hey, dude, here's my issues. You're fucking up in these areas, okay? You're going to be on probation. You got to straighten up. You got to straighten up your act." But instead, he just fired me on the spot. Fuck, dude, that put me in like a depression. I was embarrassed. But thankfully, like a lot of people didn't ask about it. But so then the drugs, dude, drugs in the neighborhood, they would give it to you. You could pay them later. They would make it so cheap that you could just buy $3 or $5 worth. Okay, and I went from being being an athlete on my trajectory. I was on a path to prosperity and good fortune. I mean, at the top, me and a few other guys were at the top as far as being a racer. I wasn't winning as much as John George or Stu, okay, but still, I was competitive and I could win, and I did win, okay. So I went being on the path of being a fucking prosperous athlete and having all the sponsorship and all the support and having everything I need, and then being featured in the magazines, to being on the path of self-destruction, and just fucking the path of self-destruction took precedent gradually and just unnoticeably, and because I didn't have a ride, I didn't go to the races as much, and sometimes I would show up at the races fucking high, and that wasn't fucking good. And so the sponsorship situation I didn't get sponsored again for like a couple of years, and so BMX was on the back burner, and the party lifestyle had taken place. But at the same time, okay, skateboarding and riding in pools. So this 1971 was a Sylmar earthquake, and in the San Fernando Valley, a lot of pools were drained because they cracked during the earthquake. So between riding pools and also skateboarding. Skate parks were popping up. Like in 10th grade, I would leave school or not even go to school and go to skater cross and go to my skateboard or my BMX bike, go to Aloha Skate Park. So skating and riding pools overtook BMX quite a bit until I got a call from DG. And then when they called, and then Botina called me, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, they can't give you a bike right now, but you can. I got an extra bike, so you can ride one of my bikes." And so that was the impetus for me to get back into BMX full time, and eventually I moved. I got a job offer to work at DG. And so because I did a geographical out of the drugs and out of the neighborhood with all the drug dealers, and living in Ramona where there was no drugs, so totally reinvigorated my career. So
I've heard stories, Byron, of guys that smoked pot, drank, and raced. Now I know that it affected your career-wise. But on the track, did it hinder you at all, or was it a net positive, or was it a good thing? I've never done it. I couldn't imagine doing it on the track. Did you do it, and was it a positive, or did it affect your riding?
I didn't ride high. Okay. I didn't like to. I couldn't ride.
Got it.
So it was after. I didn't go to the tracks. I didn't go to the track high.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just simply extracurricular activities, you know.
I want to go back to red light real quick for just a moment. Can you speak to the evolution of the flight crank? Was that your time?
Yeah, but you got to remember this. You got to remember the key word here is 40-year regrets. Okay, you got to remember that in case I forget. Okay. Evolution of flight crank. I posted on my Facebook page a video. The Joe Kid on the Stingray. They interviewed Lynn, and it was the evolution of the flight crank. Okay. So there's a video, and you can share it. Lynn talking about the entire impetus of why it happened, how it happened, and the different his different versions of these earlier iterations of the flight crank. But basically, it was a flop.
Wow.
You know, from when I started to when I got let go, it was a flop. That generation one was a total flop. It was like an arrow shape, teardrop shape. That didn't work. But the spindle was good. It's fundamentally the pinch bolt and the spindle was like an oversized flight crank. But then you did generation 2, and that was held up a little bit longer, but still they weren't making the material thick enough, and or the heat treating made the material too brittle. So it was an evolution for Lynn on developing the flight crank, where it started to become more successful for Lynn when he started to figure it out is when he was in Japan and he was working with Hiro Tonge tubing, and they started developing a specific tube wall thickness, and also they figured out the more of a optimal heat treating process. And so the reliability drastically increased, but I was gone then, so I didn't, I was,
Good.
yeah.
But people think that the 401k double pinch is the end all be all, but that is after many iterations of the flight crank.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I've heard the same thing, that the first generation flight cranks, the spindles they would strip out, and there was a bunch of problems with them. So I'm just curious on what you thought.
Yeah. So the spindle that was used was it was that material, that dimension, the splines was repurposed from another use. All right, and so I think the tolerances and just the materials that were used between the crank and the spindle, the fit. So you got the spindle, and then you got the crank, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over time, it would oval out, right, and become loose. And once it came loose, you're done. You know.
Yeah.
So it was evolution to engineer that application.
Right.
For that. Yeah. So.
What do you think, Danny? What do you think about all this stuff, man?
That's super interesting. One of the things, going to the earlier part of the interview, because he said that he saw like the BMX products starting to be introduced into the sport, and I was kind of wondering what it seemed like is like in the 70s, like, so everybody starts off on Stingrays, right? And you guys are just chopping up the bikes and you're making them work for whatever BMX is turning into. But you got to see the very beginning stages of simple products that were being developed, that were making the bikes better and better and better. And then you saw publications coming out that were introducing these products, all these advertisement. So you got to see it go from, you know, a bike that was really never meant to be a BMX bike to a full-on race bike. You got to see that whole evolution from the 70s through the 80s. And I don't think I've talked to anybody that's raced as far back as 76, Kevin, unless I'm forgetting somebody. So when I was listening to Byron talk, I was trying to imagine what he was seeing, you know, in that first decade of BMX, which is amazing. Because can you imagine the first time you opened a BMX magazine and you see all these products and the color photos, and it probably really got your juices going, is what I'm thinking.
I can imagine. I can imagine this, dude. I was jumping. I was riding 73, 74.
Okay.
It was, I don't know, Byron, it was life, dude. It was, my whole life revolved around my bike, dude, for 15 years. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not famous. Byron's famous, but I don't know if you've thought of in the future, like, this is going to change the world. People are going to be in magazines. I would assume that this is just your life. You loved it. You woke up, you went out, you jumped, you raced, and you just did your thing. And by happenstance, you become famous because of what you do and what you love at the beginning. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm thinking too much.
No, I mean, okay, it's like you're a kid and you want to do motocross and you see On Any Sunday, right? And you're going to motocross races and you're seeing other kids there, right? And so at some of the races, you have areas where you could do, the kids that bought their Stingrays, they could jump. We set up jumps at Hopetown. There's some documentation at Hopetown. Chris Hatunian and Noel Stausenberger, where these guys this is like 73, dude, maybe even 72, and they're guys fucking flat, dude, on a Stingray, dude. It's like there's no place that I'm going to have a motorcycle, and then the more kids are showing up, and there are more places to ride or discovering, okay? I got Metal Shop, and the Metal Shop teacher knew my brothers because they went to the same junior high school. Okay, and so from the first day, he pointed me to class. I would take the. I had an advantage. He appointed me to. I did the roll call every day. Okay, and I'd bring my bike into him and I'd tell him, okay, I got this fucking fork is bending, dude. What can we do? Okay, and the handlebar is slipping. Okay, and so the first thing we did was the handlebar. We brazed the crossbar. He showed me how to braze the crossbar, and then he told me. He had me put the handlebar in the right position where I wanted it, and fucking, it was either braze or MIG weld.
Weld the stem, yeah.
Weld the walled handlebar to the Schwinn gooseneck, right?
Wow.
Okay, the next thing was the forks were bending, right? So he's like, okay, well, take the Schwinn fork. He goes, take okay, you got the crown, right?
Yeah.
The Schwinn crown. We just cut out a plate that fits like a half inch on the front and the back. Okay, MIG weld it, okay, on the outside and the inside. Okay, so you're gonna increase the strength at the crown, the Schwinn Stingray fork, right? Then that fucking works. It works. But however, the next weakness was this, because the blades were strong. Now the steering tube would bend. So like a week later, I come back. Hey, Mr. Steele, the fork bent again. It was like, take it off. So we take it off, and the steering tube's bent. So it's like, okay, we'll bring in another new fork or use one, and do the plates again. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to shove a pipe, okay, into the fork steering tube, and we're going to weld it in. Okay, and just measure, okay, how far the gooseneck goes in the stem inside the fork steering tube. And so we did that. It's like my steering system was like pretty bulletproof, you know, pretty bulletproof. But anyway, so all of a sudden, the publications that are covering BMX, you're starting to get your name in the results. Sometimes you get a picture, okay? Lynn Caston, he started running ads in BMX News. The first Redline ads with John Pulverman, and then me just with a T-shirt and just at a local race, you know. And then, you know, you're starting to attract some of these bigger companies are starting to come in. They're visiting the races and people with suits, okay? Like Skip Hess. Skip Hess has got BMX product, and the Shimano guys are starting to come to the races. Kawasaki guys are starting to come to the races. And then you're fucking up front, dude. When you're up front and you got a pretty good style and you got my bike frame, okay? I got specially painted frame. I got a custom painted helmet that I painted. Okay, your uniform looks good, like a little mini pro, wannabe pro, you know.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And then, okay, so Dave Clinton comes into the picture, and you befriend Dave Clinton, okay? So he's got pull with the companies, right? So you become also out of all the guys, okay? There's certain guys with notoriety. They're fast, they're stylish, their package is good. So all of a sudden, dude, the Kawasaki executives and Shimano executives, they're asking Dave Clinton and Jim Emerson, who are now consultants for the industry, right? Well, we're gonna pick up riders. Who should we sponsor? Dave's like, pick up Friday, dude. You gotta pick them up, you know?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's always good to have good friends, man.
yeah, dude. Then it gets fucking insane. Okay, you're on Kawasaki, and they got all the gear they got all the gear and a bike, and then you fucking ride home. I mean, you get a ride home from Yarnell with a full Kawasaki kit, all the swag, hats, okay, all the jersey, helmet, pants, and a bike. Dude, Monday morning, rolling up to fucking school, with a brand new Kawasaki bike with a lime green Kawasaki sweater and a Kawasaki hat, and you're just like fucking super pumped up. People are like, what the fuck, dude? Aluminum Kawasaki bike. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
You know, we did when our bar stripped out. We would put a nail through the stem, through the. Try to put something else different, but we use a nail. We tried a tin can. We tried all kinds of different things, man. But yeah, I can totally relate, dude. I remember the first time I seen a pair of box bars. Oh my god, that was like, this is the trickiest thing I've ever seen, man. I remember my first. I didn't get them, but I saw them at the local bike shop. I was like, dude, these are incredible, man. So I can relate to what you're saying, dude.
Yeah. So get back to Danny's question. You know, this is just a natural, organic thing, and this occurs because, you know, the motocross industry. We're in the epicenter in San Fernando Valley, and where the motocross industry is, with products and motorcycle shops and also print publications, okay? And so it's just like, this is good fortune, you know? This is the embodiment of good fortune and prosperity. It's naturally happening, you know? But I will say that I have natural talent, but when I got to junior high school, which is middle school, I started training like crazy. And one thing that was a real benefit is back then they had what's called the Presidential Physical Fitness Foundation, and they had this program where you do. Did you guys have that presidential testing?
Push-ups, sit-ups, running, pull-up, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a segue into getting fit and, you know, and strong. So you talk about the perfect storm, dude. Perfect opportunity for you know, aspiring racer. All these things are just happening naturally. It's just one day, you know, by day, things go on. And it's just the evolution. I mean, for instance, like Bob Osborne, he was pretty much a Van Nuys Teen Center local, NBA local. You know, he was one of the main guys at Bicycle Motocross News. You know, he was working. He started Wizard Publications, and we didn't know. And he was working on the first issue of Bicycle Motocross Action magazine, right? He's working on this on the down low, not telling nobody.
Wow.
People knew about it because, you know, they were BMXers and they were involved, and so they knew. But I think they were like RL and Ike Eisenacher. They didn't say, they were, you know, we'd see them at the races, but they wouldn't say anything. Building Leaping Jones, Don Jones, but they didn't say anything. But so we used, at the end of Wednesday or Friday nights after the Valley Youth Center, the Valley Teen Center, we used to go to a restaurant to get food after, right? Almost every Wednesday and Friday. And Bob would come some of the time, but he had to drive back to Torrance, so he didn't always come. But he did come. And so on one particular time, we're just getting some grub, having a good time. It was totally fun, dude. It was the BMX fucking club after the races. Fucking greatest environment, dude. Greatest. And so Bob rolls up, and he pulls out this fucking magazine, dude. Flying loose on. Oh my god, dude! Bicycle Motocross Accident Magazine, and dude, it's just insane. And I got my photo with a rad photo, so I was fucking high as a kite, dude. I was like endorphins, dude, insane. But I was riding for Shimano then, so that was like a big kudos for me with Shimano. Getting magazine coverage with the Shimano executives. And Shimano was in the valley, it was across town, but that was an interesting situation. So,
we talked to Stanley Robinson, and he told a story about how he was introduced to the DX pedals. Dude, were you around back then, or was that before or after your time?
DX was happening when DX pedal was happening when I was exiting out and getting into mountain bikes.
Okay, all right, okay. Anyways, he had a cool story about the DX about getting the DX pedals. He was in Japan or something.
Oh yeah, that makes sense because so he probably had prototypes.
Yeah. What do you think, Danny?
I was just gonna ask. I got one more question for Byron, and I didn't realize you had the substance abuse problems. I didn't know your history that far back. Did BMX save your life?
Let's see here. Pretty much yes, because at the time when shit's going off the rails, like cocaine is not fucking cheap. So, like starting to fucking be a criminal, stealing shit, began to break into fucking houses. Things like shit I would never imagine doing. But I would say that, and that the more drugs were coming in, like what the original meth was called crank, and all the Harley Davidson riders and the Hells Angels. That was like starting to come into the picture, but it was coming into the picture. And then I got the job at DG, and I got to get out of it. But if I look back, if I didn't have the opportunity to get out of the valley, there's no question that the drugs would have taken over, that I would have become full blown. And a couple of my friends started using the needle, and actually I would have fucking used the needle for the first time, but we ran out. Okay, and so I didn't use it. And here's the sad thing: is we didn't know anything about it, like hepatitis that you get from sharing needles. We didn't know anything about the dangers about that. But so I know 3 people in that era, 2 people in my neighborhood that died from hepatitis. They didn't die from overdoses, but they died from hepatitis. But so that was, I would say, a situation where more than likely, unless I would have got into some kind of recovery program like AA or something, that I would have fucked up bad enough where I got in like the court system and got in maybe like drug court. That might have saved me. But it was going fucking downhill fast. So from being 100% on a path of committed athlete to getting sidetracked and taking the wrong turn, I'm on the path of prosperity and good fortune. I'm on the path of fucking self-destruction. And like the hard shit, like fucking PCP, Angel Dust, dude. Before I got the opportunity to move out, dude, it was a situation where, dude, the shit was so cheap, and it was just so mind-altering, dude. But it was so pleasurable. We just ride around looking for pools. We'd be jumping in the backyard of people's empty pools. Sometimes fucking guys would pull guns, and sometimes probably at least a half dozen times the homeowners, they call the police, and half the time we get brought into the station for trespassing and destruction of property. So to answer your question, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then, so I didn't no drugs or alcohol until I got involved in the when I got I started working for Diamondback, and we'd spend 3 to 4 weeks in Japan and Taiwan, and that was fucking every night drinking hard, fucking every night. And then my girlfriend, that also works with that Diamondback, we'd go out every weekend, like Friday and Saturday night, fucking nightclubs. So I picked up the alcohol habit, and the habit. When I say habit, I'd say I can look back at now, and it became the habit is what I call a low degree of physical dependency, but you don't know it. You just drink. What it led to is like having, 2 to 3, 4 beers a night, every night. And that led to like a medium degree of dependency on the alcohol. But I ended up, it being consequential, had consequences in my life physically. Never getting DUIs or anything. Not not being a drunk driver, but I was self-medicating my emotional wounds and my emotional baggage, and that became a problem. So I ended up asking for help, and I went to a 2-month detox rehab program. That put me on the path of recovery. And ended up learning about addiction, alcohol dependency, how alcohol is habit forming, and the different degrees of alcoholism. So, and sober now, and in fact, I'm sober now. Don't even think about drinking, but I'm about probably 8 or 9 days I quit caffeine. Fuck, dude, for the first week, oh my God, dude. I had just at home. I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I had fucking detox. And I'm coming around. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good right now. Like I rode from here to Hollywood yesterday in like 90-degree weather, and I held it pretty good. So I think I'm over the hump. But dude, quitting caffeine, it's serious. But here's the thing. I was always chasing I was using caffeine as a drug, like drug-like. So there was going to be a caffeine crash after my morning coffee. There was going to be a caffeine crash in the afternoon. So I would time my nicotine, caffeine consumption, coffee, tea, or energy drinks, so I wouldn't get the caffeine crash. But like first day, dude, detoxing off the caffeine, fuck, dude, disabled. So, yeah.
Byron, excuse me. Hey, Danny, I hope you don't mind if I go back.
That's all right.
I have a couple more questions. The Yamaha Gold Cup, you raced that, right?
Okay, I raced the Yamaha Gold Cup qualifier.
Okay.
And that was at Birmingham High School. I was not yet in high school yet, but I was at Mulholland Junior High School, which resides right next to Birmingham High School, right? And so it's fucking cool, dude. I'm in junior high, I'm like 8th grade, and they're gonna have a big BMX race at Birmingham High School, the Yamaha Gold Cup qualifier. So there's 3 qualifiers. There's Van Nuys, Birmingham High School, there's San Diego, and then there's Northern California. And then the final was at the LA Coliseum.
Okay.
So I didn't qualify at my qualifier at the Birmingham High School. I raced motorcycles the night before for the first time at Indian Dunes at one of Ernie's races. And I was just so on cloud nine. I didn't give a shit about the Gold Cup, but I raced anyway. It's like if you didn't get a start, the track layout, it was balled up, so you really couldn't pass many people. So I didn't qualify. But my neighborhood classmate, my neighborhood riding buddy, Johnny O'Mara, he qualified. He qualified for the final. And we attended the final, right?
Okay.
So, that's quite a cool story, which I could tell you more about Rick's Bike Shop and the introduction of a Webco frame and the Motomag. But I want to talk about what days leading up to the Yamaha Gold Cup qualifier at Birmingham High School. Okay, so every day, this is summertime, and every day during the week, me and Johnny Osho, we roll up to the high school to see if they're setting up, right? And I think Monday, Tuesday, nothing, but like Wednesday, we're heading up. We're riding to the high school, and we see 2 guys on Schwinn's with a BMX setup, and it happened to be Dynamite David Clinton and John Snaggletooth Paul Freeman. Okay, here's what's fucking insane, dude. Like, I read about them, and I know what they look like, because they were featured quite a bit in Southern California Motocross newspaper. But so we're at the stoplight, and we roll up, and we're like, "You're going to Birmingham?" They're like, "Yeah." "Hey, I'm Byron Friday. This is Johnny O'Mara. Dave Clinton." John Hoffman. Whoa, dude. So we ride over there, right? And they're starting to do setup, and Scott Breithop's there. And Scott Breithop, I knew what he looked like because he was in the newspapers already. So we roll up, and Scott sees us, and we wave. We go talk to him, and he's like, "You want to help set up?" So yeah. So we helped him set up. It wasn't that much. He was almost done. But that was when I first met Scott Breithop, and that was even more hero worship than meeting Dave Clinton and John Paulferman. Because Scott Breithop, he's in the bike advertising. From I think Bikeette was Mike Devitt, and or it was either Bikeette or it was Trick Ray. It might have been Trick Ray, and he was featured in the Trick Ray or Bikeette ad. But now, dude, he's the main guy to run the BMX race, But so that would end up, I got to spend a lot of time with Scott. From then on, because Perry started running for SE, and we traveled together, and so there was a lot of traveling together, road trips together. So, yeah, okay. So the Yamaha Gold Cup, dude. This is one of the magic moments of BMX products introduced to the world. Okay, so Johnny O's mom and dad take us to the LA Coliseum, and we roll up in the truck, and there's like 4 or 5 yellow bikes with BMX friends and these fucking mag wheels. We're fucking shitting our pants. We're absolutely fucking our mind is exploding, dude. So we get out of the truck and we walk over and we check it out, and it's Rick's Bike Shop's team. And they're introducing the Webco frame and the Moto Mags. Dude, this is fucking, my mind is exploding. Oh my God. Okay, and then to make it even more fucking amazing, they got brand new Webco BMX denim pants, okay? And they got new Rick's Bike Shop jerseys with Moto Mag on there and Webco. They all got their candy apple metal flake helmets, and they look like a fucking Team Rider, right? So we got to get ready. We gawk at the bikes for a few minutes, then we go to sign-ups and get everything all set up, right? So we wait for a couple hours, and the first practice, the classes are novice, junior, and expert, right? And so the first practice is the novices. They're the younger riders, right? And so the first fucking practice, dude, Eric Richter, Rick's Bike Shop, on the fucking yellow Webco with the Moto Mags. He's got a fucking face mask, red face mask, and I think he had, pretty sure he had Scott goggles. Dude, it's like, this guy Holstein, he's got long hair, okay? Long blonde hair. He's got a fucking tack position. He's got fucking Rocket Man on the top of his helmet. My mind is fucking blowing up, dude. I'm like, what is this, dude? This is insane. And so he does his laps, and I run over, and I check out his bike. The track was long, okay? And it was just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And Johnny was looking good, but his bike was worn out, worn out. But then the juniors go to practice, and fucking first practice, Dave Clinton fucking hole shots. Okay, the first obstacle is a tabletop, a wood tabletop, and then a fucking double jump water hole, right? Fucking David's fucking WFO 100%. Fucking like manuals the fucking tabletop, just his front wheel down the backside, fucking pedals his ass off, skies over the fucking water hole, just fucking launches in. He does his lap. He comes around, does his finish, and he's fucking riding the back wheel. He's with the coaster brake, sitting on the seat, fucking coaster wheeling down the straightaway. Dude, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Oh my God.
Hey, okay. Byron, is this a race where he's coming around the back straight and he's pulling everybody, dude? He's like 30, 40, 50, 60 feet in front of everybody, and he's just hauling out. That's the race you're talking about, right?
Well, this was practice, but he did that in the motos.
Okay, yeah. Have you ever seen it? Danny, have you ever seen this?
Yeah. I've reviewed that on previous videos I've done.
It's like an adult racing children. He just pulls everybody by like half a lap around the Coliseum. Yeah. It's a long lap.
Yeah. There's two different versions of that. There's two different versions of that. So yeah, that's right. Okay. So the next practice is is going to be John George, okay, and the Rick Spike Shop riders, Tom Lund, John Palferman, Doug Takahashi, Marvin Church. But the standout is fucking John George, dude. He's got a 2-speed. He's got a 3-speed rear. It's configured to where it's just got 2 speeds. And the gears are activated with the brake lever. Okay? The gears are activated with the brake lever. So the easy gear is you pull it in, and then you go off the starting line, okay? And then when you're running out of gear, you let the brake lever out, and it switches into the higher gear. So John George, by the first obstacle, the first tabletop, dude, he's smoking, dude. He just fucking kills everywhere. He kills everyone. But off the water jump, dude, this fucking does a major X-up, and you can see him go around the track. He's just fucking killing it. And also at the finish line, before the finish line, he's doing wheelies. And at the finish line, he's doing wheelies. But so this is like you BMX Utopia. What the fuck, dude? This is like, whoa, dude. So they run the qualifiers, the semis and the mains, and all the races are fucking dynamite, dude. This is just fucking killer. Then they have full Larry Supermouth Huffman, who did this announcer for the Super Bowl motocross and other motocross races. Dude, he's a great announcer. They got spotters on the track. They got the names of the riders on the big marquee thing, and so it's just like insane. And then it gets topped off with a major award ceremony. They got a fucking band out there. It's a spectacular, dude. Yeah.
Who won the? Clinton won the older one, right? Who won the? Who were the 2 guys that won the younger ones?
Stu Thompson won one of them.
Yes, Stu won the experts, okay? And he was like a man racing these boys. He just fucking annihilated. But they did 2 laps. And Stu, yeah, they did 2 laps. So fucking Stu smoked everybody. But the Rick Spike Shop guys, before and after the water hole, it made the track slippery, so there was a big fucking crash. There was a big crash. But Bobby Watts won the junior class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dave Clinton won. Which class did he get?
Expert.
Okay. It was the novice was Bobby Watts. The juniors is Dave Clinton. Okay. And expert is Stu Thompson.
Oh, I got it backwards. I thought Stu was that one they had juniors.
Hey, I got a lot of editing to do today, bro. This is gonna be sick, Danny. Sick. But hey, one more question. Mongoose. What did you do at Mongoose, man? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I never worked at Mongoose.
Okay, I thought you said you did. I apologize. You raced for Mongoose? No, nothing.
Oh no, excuse me. I worked at Mongoose in 1995 for 2 years.
Okay.
Right. I was getting back into riding because I reconnected with Greg Hill, and he lived near me, and so I ended up getting a bike. This is around probably 91, 92, 93. I forget which year. So I started riding the local tracks, and at that time I was a farmer's insurance agent, and the Northridge earthquake happened, and it was a big nightmare. So during 94, I made an exit plan. I put together some proposals to be a road manager and team manager. I sent them to Schwinn and Haro and Mongoose. and all three were interested, but Mongoose was ready to pull the trigger and start paying me right away, so I went with that. So I was mainly like team manager and road manager, supported the riders.
Okay.
Fuzzy, Robert McPherson, Fuzzy, Robert McPherson, Brian Lopes, and first year, Robert McPherson took a title in amateurs, national #1 AVA title. Second year, national #1 pro. And then after that, I took an offer for Trek, which is quite money. So, yeah.
Hey, do you want to? Are you down for some trivia, Byron?
I got to give you the Scorpion story.
Okay.
Okay, end of days, Scorpion. This is pretty fucking insane. So, Paul Hinkston worked. He was an executive at Shimano America when I rode for Shimano. So when I left UG and moved back home, I was racing locally, and Paul had Sentinel Cycle SCI with the Scorpion brand, and he showed up at the races, and we reconnected. They ended up making me an offer. I started riding for him. So we went through like 2 or 3 years with that program, and the company was going down. Their powder coating facility kept them afloat, kept the bills being paid, and Paul was doing development and setting up deals in Japan and Taiwan, and so probably half the year he wasn't there, but we had inventory, and so he'd just say, well, just try to sell whatever inventory you can, right? And at this time, Scorpion had American-made assembled frames, and then the wheels would have to be laced, and if the bikes were powder coated, we powder coat them in there. But when the location, there was no more Scorpion bicycle company employees except for me. So at the end of days, I would call bike shops and try to get orders, okay? And if I would get an order for any bikes or even one bike, I'd take the order and I'd go into the shop, I'd lace up the wheels, put the tires on, I'd package all the components, package the frame up, and get the bike ready for shipping, do the shipping labels, and then I would go to UPS and fucking ship the bikes. So, talk about jack of all trades, dude. It's insane. Call them, okay? Not have an inventory, but you call them, sell a couple bikes or orders, go fucking build the wheels, true the wheels, package everything up, and then go ship it. It was crazy. But at the same time, we had spec'd the ZX series that Paul had sourced from Taiwan. I'm pretty sure Taiwan. So it's the ZX 100, ZX 200, and ZX 300 complete bikes. It was like ZX 100 was like 150 or something price range bike, but it had fucking cool graphics, right? Really cool graphics. I had a really cool designer do some great looking graphics, and then ZX 200
model that actually had tough wheels on it, because I could kind of picture those models, and one of them, like the entry level one, looked like it had yellow tough wheels on it. I don't know if I'm remembering that wrong or not.
That was probably after Scorpion went belly up, and international distributors continued with the brand.
Okay.
It was probably some freestyle bikes, but actually could have been BMX bikes too. But so anyway, we spec the bikes. We got the graphics done. And Paul's in Taiwan, getting sample bikes made, and then he had photos taken of the bikes, and then he'd have the trading company work with the graphic designers to do a one-page flyer, full-color flyer. Okay, the Scorpion ZX series. Okay, ZX 100, 200, 300. Good looking graphic typography, and so he'd send over a box of those flyers as a brochure of the ZX series. Okay, and I'd start sending them to the shops I was calling, and because they were good price points and they're good spec bikes, the dealers started ordering. Dealers that I could hardly ever get any orders from, or never, shops that would never buy from me, they got the brochures. Some of them would call me when they got the brochures, or I would call them after I sent them the brochures, right? And I call them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. And we sold like probably 2 containers of bikes, or maybe 3 containers. We sold out. Like I couldn't sell any fucking Scorpion bikes. Then all of a sudden, like within a couple months, I sold 3 containers.
Wow.
And yeah.
How many bikes are in a container?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
Probably a couple
hundred.
Probably like 100, a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Something like that. 150 or 200, something like that. So anyway, that was fucking awesome. That was awesome because I had all the graphics design and the spec the bikes, and this came together, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to keep the company afloat. But that's when I got. Perry hooked me up with the opportunity at SE Racing. Yeah.
And you know, Roddy Rio loved Scorpion. Wasn't it Roddy Rio, Danny?
Was it Ronnie? I don't remember actually.
Who said it was the heaviest bike he ever rode? Was it Ronnie, right?
You might have, yeah, because I think we asked him what did he ride before GT, and I think he said Scorpion. Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah. He said it was heavy. I remember that.
Well, actually, you know what? No, it was probably after. It was after, because that was, I didn't ride for Scorpion until DG was over, and they didn't start sponsoring riders until I was well into 1 year at Scorpion.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing.
Was Scorpion sold at Pet Boys or anything like that, or no?
No.
Strictly shops.
Yeah, strictly shops.
Okay, all right, okay.
And the construction that they had was kind of like a road bike with lugs, but the lugs were integrated into the head tube, the bottom bracket, and the seat junction. But which made the frame a little bit heavier, but it made the joint stronger. Okay, so the main frame was more reliable, and the rear dropouts were like Shimano copies of the Shimano track dropouts, and they were a little thicker. So overall, the frame was a little bit heavier, but it was more reliable. And a lot of some of the people that became Scorpion fans became fans of the unique design, and also the rear end. You know how typical BMX rear end back in the day, where the dropout met the seat stays and the chain stays. It's not a design. It's just like hack. It's just a metal plate to some tubes with the open tube. Okay. It's like just metal shop shit. But the Scorpion had design taken off from a road bike where the chain stays and seat stays where they met the dropout. Okay. They were closed end and they were tapered. So you looked at it and it was a cool design. It was like, looked professional. Like it was engineered. It was designed professionally. So that's that's the riders that did like the Scorpion product. They liked it because the unique configuration and the reliability of the bike.
Got it.
And also being, made in the USA. So here's the deal. So I take my whole experience as an athlete and a veteran member of the bicycle industry, right? And then I think about and I compare myself when I was spending time with some of the top athletes and AVA #1 plate holders. Robert McPherson, Brian Lopes, Fuzzy Hall, and driving home, okay, and then Trek Wade Boots, okay, driving home, okay, with motorcycles, with jet skis, okay, with #1 cups, okay, with the big copy of the checks, okay, #1 pro, fucking $25,000, okay. I get to and seeing these guys win AVA national championships, win UCI world championships. I get to compare myself and how I prepared and how I approached my racing, and I get to see how modern day professionals develop into world champions and national champions. And when I'm first generation, right? And also I'm first generation mountain bikes. And I look and I say, you know what? If I knew what I know now by spending time with these world champions, okay, and these modern day world championship, modern day world AVA champions, I could have been at a level of Greg Hill or Stu Thompson. Now, I have my notoriety in the sport, right? Okay, but I don't have the notoriety of a Greg Hill or a Stu Thompson, right? And so, spending time with these athletes, I can compare, and now I'm putting together the curriculum and lessons where it's essentially successful professional athlete, first generation, that spent time with modern day world champions and national champions and learned what the difference is between me and them, okay? And so I came up with strategies and tactics how I can help the current modern day athletes and parents shorten the learning curve and avoid making the costly mistakes that I made. And essentially optimizing, the decision-making process, sharing with the parents, okay? Given the outline the top character attributes of what a top champion is, okay, versus a mediocre rider, giving them the key points of, okay, you have to be up to par to be a contender. You have to have these character attributes, and you have to avoid making these decisions. Otherwise, you're just going to be a mediocre rider. And so when the parents get to learn in like a micro lesson where they get to learn, 10 to 20 different tactics and strategies that can help them shave off years off the learning curve. Essentially, they get to identify the level of potential of their athlete and where they stand. Okay, are they mediocre with potential, or are they mediocre with no potential, or are they high potential but they're unwilling to sacrifice because they don't have the work ethic? So now here's the last part of this equation. So I did riding schools, traveled the country, and I also went to Europe. I did camps in Europe and the UK, and I get feedback from people. Man, you really helped me out. But so now through podcasting, okay, I got a road podcaster over here, and I got my GoPro. I can do my lessons, provide them to the parents in a much more abbreviated form. Okay, it's like a school, but it's more like one. It's almost something like one-on-one. But now I can reach, because of podcasting and RSS technology and social media, I don't have to travel across the country, or I have to go to Europe. I can do my teaching by uploading my media to my media host and then marketing it. And so essentially what this is, I'm so grateful at my path in my career, my good fortune, and my prosperity. I feel the need that I almost feel like, I'm not worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. I feel that unless I come back and I share what I learned with people to help the parents and help the athletes. Therefore, if I do that, then I feel I'm worthy. But so anyway,
that's interesting, man. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so it's athlete paying it forward, coming back and giving back. And I feel if I'm worthy of a Hall of Fame induction, that will be one of the main reasons. He took advantage of the career of what was offered to him, but he did come back and give back to the sport, being generous.
Hey, how do people contact you for this whole thing? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I got two platforms right now. MXteacher.com and BMXteacher.com.
Okay, all right. I'm going to link that to the episode.
Yeah, but here's what my plan is. This is going to end up being one combination. Both BMX Teacher and MX Teacher are going to be rebranded to MX Prep School and BMX Prep School, which will be one, okay? And what I'm focusing on is going to be a prep school, just like a college prep school. And how I came up with that idea is when I'm out on my training ride, there's a couple actually college prep schools that I ride by, and I think, you know what? In BMX, okay, how rad would it be if a former pro came back and gave a free prep school on helping the parents shorten their learning curve by sharing my life experience, okay? And I'm going to start with that. And main emphasis, okay? I'm not doing riding techniques. I'm not doing training techniques, okay? What I'm teaching is how to be a well-prepared athlete, okay? It's MX Prep School, home of the well-prepared athlete. And the second part of that, which will come later, is I want the MX Prep School to be home of the intelligent athlete, and include a heavy emphasis on not grammar, but what do you call words? Dude, I can usually spit this out. Language, the language associated with words.
Okay. Terminology.
Shoot, what is it? Maybe I'm tired here.
Okay.
But so anyway, that's the deal. That's the deal.
That's interesting, man. That sounds very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think that we've run a little late, Byron. I want to do trivia, but I think I don't have enough time. I want to thank you for coming on, dude. And we could have spent another 3 hours, I think, dude. But I want to thank you. And if anybody wants to, you said something very cool, like you're doing something different. You're not training. You're doing mental training, right? Mental training, not physical training. So it's a little bit different than most people are doing. So that's cool. Yeah,
it's like just being prepared in life. Athletes today, they got to be prepared in life. They got to be if you want to be a successful athlete, okay, I'm emphasizing this a lot. You got to be good at life first, because you can't accept the responsibilities that come with pursuing becoming a national level rider or a world class level rider if you're not good at life. And this day and age, our society pushes negativity and drama and cancel culture, which is bullshit. So,
yeah. Well, Byron, dude, from the bottom of my heart, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I thank you very much for taking the time on a Sunday morning, dude. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you very much.
Let me just say one thing.
Yeah.
Byron Friday has been prosperous and had the level of success in the sport and achieved his notoriety based on good fortune. And good fortune, what that means is people believing in me and opening up doors of opportunity, okay? And so I would never achieved the level of prosperity in the sport and the notoriety in the sport and the industry without other people opening the door and providing opportunities, okay? So in BMX, I'm nothing without these people that provided these opportunities. So I just want to say that. So thank you very much. All right?
Okay, man. Byron, have a great day, man. Thank you.
See you, Byron.
All right.
All right, peace out, man. A long one, dude.
That's very. I took a lot of notes. I literally I was taking a lot of notes, and there's a lot of this stuff that he was sharing I could use in future videos and things like that, especially when we're creating shorts and stuff. So it was pretty interesting. Yeah, very interesting. It was just like a history lesson today.
I'm so stoked that I got to ask him about the Redline C2. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I kind of got that sense.
That was very cool, dude. So that was one interview that I've looked forward to for a while now. So I'm glad that we had a chance to talk to Byron.
Yeah.
The beautiful part about Byron is when you ask him a question, he'll talk to you.
Right.
He'll give his opinion on stuff. So that was great.
He had a very interesting life. I didn't realize the challenges he went through and his history of and I was just like, wow. And he's seen a lot, and he's very humble, and he's had a lot. He mentioned he had a lot of opportunities that were given to him, and he's mentioned his high times and low times, and he covered every aspect. I literally, Kevin, I was like, I think the best approach for this interview is to just let him have a platform, and that's what I did today, because I'm like, I don't think I want to ask him a lot of questions, because he's got a lot he already knows he wants to talk about, so I just let him go. And I hope that goes for a good show, though. Sorry I didn't engage.
Yeah, man. I knew that you were thinking that.
Yeah.
Just by your demeanor, I'm thinking, and I wanted the same thing. I was thinking, like, don't interrupt him. Let him talk, because that's where you extract the kernels of information and the valuable things out of their conversations when you let someone share what's on their heart, what's in their, what they want to talk about. So that we accomplished, and that was great.
Awesome, man.
That was great. So it's
I'm ready for some coffee.
Yeah, dude. So if you have your own show, what do you do when you're not with me, man?
You can find me on YouTube, Danny Pena BMX Racing, BMX Magazine Reviews, Race Reviews, all BMX content all the time. I dropped a few shorts this week. I'm going to do a magazine either today or tonight. I already selected one I'm going to review, and I'm getting. I need to get more into the magazine reviews. I've been kind of steering away from it, but I need to get more magazines. So if anybody has any magazines I could possibly borrow, that would help a little bit because I'm running low on inventory. But other than that, that's it.
All right, very much. And the website is back up and running, BMXPERTS If you would like to support the channel, grab some merch off of the site. And Chris Ermer from 509 got a couple of shirts, so I got to take care of that tomorrow.
Did you get hold of Ashley for the?
No, she never. I'm going to call her today, but I haven't had a chance to schedule something with her yet. But hopefully I will soon.
Yeah, she said that she can do the shipping and everything for us, so that'll alleviate a lot of your stress. So if somebody wants to order a shirt, she can take care of everything for us, and that's a good start for us right there.
Yeah. All righty. Until next week. Oh wait, hold on. I gotta get the spiel right. If you'd like to support the channel, go to BMXPodcast.com. And until next week, the track is closed. Peace out.
See you, Kev.
Later, man. Bye.